Good morning, everyone. We hope you've all made your way through that delicious breakfast buffet and are enjoying your visiting at your tables. Welcome to our November Friday Forum of the Utah Valley Chamber of Commerce. I'm John Lewis with Brigham Young University and chairman for this year of the Chamber of Commerce. Very grateful to welcome you here today and very grateful for UVU and their sponsorship of today's event. Not only sponsorship, but really rolling out the red carpet and hosting us here in this great facility with a wonderful breakfast. Thank you to UVU. And we appreciate all you for being with us today. We know many of you have come from long distances and have negotiated interesting traffic situations, and we're glad you could all join us this morning. It's an exciting day to hear more about UVU's engaged business strategy. We're thankful to be able to be a part of that and to understand the work that's been going on and the plans that UVU has in mind for these great directions. No better way to start that off today than by hearing from our governor. I thought of what I might say about Governor Gary Herbert, but I think it's all been said, Governor. We are grateful that he could find time in his schedule to be with us today. We're grateful for his encouragement and support of all things Utah Valley and for the state of Utah. I introduce to you today our Governor, Gary Herbert.
Well, thank you, John. It's certainly a privilege for me to be here with all of you. It's good to be back home, as I always say, here in my hometown of Orem and Utah Valley, and to see so many friends and people I've worked with and have come to respect and admire over the years. And I appreciate that we're kind of with the movers and shakers of the valley. See a lot of my friends in local government, where I have a warm spot in my heart. I know where the rubber really does meet the road. Those of you in local government that really are doing the heavy lifting. I know we've got some legislators here too that are looking forward to an upcoming legislative session that's going to be still a challenge for us in the state of Utah. We're starting to come out of the economic doldrums, but we still have some challenges when it comes to our budget. This last year was, at least by all accounts, probably the most challenging legislative session budgetarily we've had since the Great Depression. I think this upcoming session will still be a challenge, and I'm looking forward to working with the legislature and all of you and making sure that we do it correctly here. Good to be with President Holland. Last night with Mayor Curtis and myself, we were bouncing to the Beach Boys down at the Covey Center, and Steve Covey's here with us. So again, just a great atmosphere again for us Beach Boy groupies. It was kind of fun to reminisce of the old days and when we used to go up to Lagoon and watch them sing up there in their early days. And again, what a great addition the Covey Center's been to our community, and we thank Steve and Sandra Covey for their leadership on that. With that, maybe I can just take a few minutes here and just talk a little bit about what I think the future of Utah is when it comes to business and economic development and job growth creation here in the state of Utah. Some of you knew my father. I know he was very involved with the Chambers of Commerce. Probably under his leadership is how we got the Provo-Orem Chamber of Commerce combined. He was somebody who believed that we could do more working together than we would in competition with each other, as the cities of Orem and Provo kind of were growing together. And he was a person who really believed in getting out there and kind of giving back and working together inclusively with the business community, and had a great admiration for the rise of Utah Valley State College and its university status, and was involved, as was I, over many years to see this great institution evolve to what it is today. But he was an old Idaho farm boy, and he came from that farm background. He lived on a farm up in a little town called Sterling, Idaho, just outside of Blackfoot. And if anybody here knows where Sterling is, you can go to the head of the class. Just a little whistle stop. Hey, here's one guy. But he raised a few spuds, as he'd say, and had a few milk cows. But he learned the importance of the law of a harvest and what it took to, in fact, raise good crops and have some production that come off of the farm. And I can tell you, I've never known a time when he moved here, met my mother when he was going to school here at BYU, that we did not have a garden at our home. He loved to get out and till the soil. He loved to get out there and kind of get back to his roots from Idaho, and always had a garden. And what didn't matter was potatoes, corn, raspberries. We had a number of fruit trees, and he was always out there working the garden. And I learned a lot from him. Number one, I learned how to work. I didn't quite understand at the time, because I thought, gee, you can always go down to the grocery store and buy all the things we're raising here in our backyard, and it's a lot easier. But he was teaching me some things about work, and our family slogan, some of you have heard before, was, work will win when wishy-washy wishing won't. And I've lived by that motto, as my dad has, and it's certainly true. I think hard work covers a multitude of shortcomings, as we see in the marketplace and in life. If you roll up your sleeves and go to work, you can generally have some success. And his principles that he taught me were that first, if you're going to have a successful crop, you got to prepare the soil. You got to make sure that you have a place where you can plant your seeds that will be receptive to that. You have to have good seed. You have to have something that's conducive to, it's not old, it's got to be fresh, and it's got to be something that will be a crop that you want to grow. You have to weed, you have to fertilize, and you have to water. Those are all necessary ingredients if we're going to have success in our growing of a crop. Work hard, I've mentioned to you, and last, you need to expect a harvest. There has to be an attitude, maybe even one of faith, that if we do these certain things, we'll have an end result that we'll be pleased with. And every year, Dad did that. And with the help of some of us kids, we always had a harvest in our backyard. And in Dad's home today, we still have a crop being grown, although it's since Dad passed away this past January, it's not much going to happen there since he's left. But I just liken that to what we see here in Utah now. As we are trying to grow a crop, we're trying to grow economically. We're just coming out of, and we're one of the few areas that is in fact coming out of what we now refer to as the Great Recession. The most difficult time in our state's history and our country's history since the Great Depression. And certainly Utah was not immune to that impact. And in our budgetary challenges that I just mentioned, we've lost over $1 billion in revenue. And to balance budgets and produce revenue or produce services, government services that we the people believe are important and necessary, is a unique challenge, particularly when it comes to funding education, which is a constantly growing expense side of the budget, as we have a growing population, a growing student population, and have a high birth rate and large family size here in Utah that's unique to us. And so that challenge is real. But we're growing. And we were just named here just about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago by Forbes magazine, which knows a little bit something about business, as the #1 best place in America for business and for careers. Now, that didn't just happen by chance. It happened because as good gardeners, we've gone out and done things to prepare it so that we can be thus and so. We have, in fact, gone out and done things like preparing the soil. We've had tax reform, for example, that we started here a number of years ago, and in that tax reform, we've, in fact, reduced our tax rates from 7 to 5. Again, for you as business people, you understand that produces a more conducive environment for business, for the entrepreneur to go out there and take the risk with expectation of getting reward. And so tax reform and having a fair approach to taxes, we're not saying you have to have zero, but there's an appropriate balance there, and we believe that in order to be competitive in this state, we needed to reduce our tax rate on income tax from 7 to 5. And we've done that. You can contrast that with California, which raised their taxes higher. They've gone to 10 1/4. And as we see, their economy is not flourishing. In fact, it is really having some real struggles right now in California because they are not creating a conducive atmosphere for business. We also recognize that in addition to taxes, that we can hurt you as business people by having regulation that's nonsensical. And as somebody who comes from the private sector myself, as a small businessman, I recognize that sometimes regulations get in the way of you functioning as business people. And so we are constantly being vigilant in this state about making sure that our business regulations do make some sense and are not getting in the way to hamper your ability to go out in a free market situation and roll up your sleeves, go to work, invest your resources, and then be hampered because of onerous regulations that make it more difficult for you to have success. We also recognize that in order to be successful, we've got to have good labor. Again, when Dad says you got to roll up your sleeves and go to work, it means you've got to have some people out there that's got sleeves to roll up. And one of the things that this institution and what we're trying to do and make sure in Utah is that we have a labor force that in fact is in demand by the business community. And that in fact is happening. We are young in Utah. It causes some challenges on the expense side as we have this growing young population of students. But it is something that the business community would like to have as they look for a productive labor force. And here in Utah, we have as productive a labor force as can be found anywhere in the country. Young, our median age in Utah is 28.8 years of age. Young, energetic, productive, probably part of our pioneer heritage. We understand that you have to go out there and roll up your sleeves and work. Honest day's pay for an honest day's labor. And we're high-tech savvy. We have more understanding of technology here in Utah, probably certainly per capita, with home computer use and technology advancements than any place in the country. And lastly, we're bilingual. A unique circumstance we find here in Utah as we now go from not just an Intermountain Utah market, but a global marketplace where the ability to speak foreign language is a tremendous asset. And again, our labor force is something that's in demand. Last but not least, I think in Utah more than most states, we understand the appropriate role of government. We understand that government has a role. We're not anti-government, but we also believe it should not be the end-all and be-all of our lives and take care of us from cradle to grave. And fortunately for us, and it's not just on my watch, but because we've had many years of fiscal restraint and an understanding that the government has an appropriate role, but it ought to be darned efficient in that role, we have a very effective government. The Pew Foundation, the Pew Research Center out of Washington, D.C. has named us as a state as the best managed state in America. We've not rested on our laurels. Fraser Bullock and with Governor Bangerter has taken a fresh look at Utah government to make sure that we are doing all that we can to be as efficient and effective in the delivery of services and the judicial use of the taxpayers' money as we can possibly be. And although he's pronounced that we are very effectively using your taxpayers' dollars, they did give us 56 recommendations of areas that we can in fact improve upon. So we're not resting on our laurels. We're looking for those efficiencies and ways to improve. And we're doing it better than other states. I'll just mention, Arizona, our friend to the south, because of their lack of efficiency, their lack of fiscal restraint, here this past summer sold their state capital. If you can conceive of that, they did lease it back so they can still occupy the premises, but they had to sell it in order to raise revenue to balance their budget. And it's just one-time money. I don't know what they're going to sell next year, but it puts them in a significant challenging place. The results of all this, and as I sum up here, is that good things are happening in Utah economically. We've created over the past 14 months 20,000 new jobs in Utah. Our growth rate, although not what we'd like it to be historically, is about 3.5% per year. We're growing at about 1.9% per year. But the good news is we are growing. Many states are not growing. And so our future is optimistic, and I think our future is bright. We have not only growth from within, with companies, we see Flash really starting to pick up out in Lehigh. You go up in Logan, Icon, our exercise has a $1 billion business now, the largest market share in the world for exercise equipment. Orbit Irrigation Company, which is our largest retail market share in the country of irrigation equipment. Merit Medical, Edwards Life Sciences, Fresenius are medical device companies that are growing right through the recession, adding nearly 1,500 jobs over the next few years. We're attracting businesses in that have acquired, like Armature, a homegrown business here that's acquired by Adobe, a significant sea change where a Fortune 500 company like Adobe comes here, acquires, and stays. And not only stays, but says we're going to expand our business, 1,000 new jobs, probably $1.5 billion in wages over the next 15 years, and probably $2.5 billion of investment in our community over the next 15 years. A significant event that's taking place, not only made news here in Utah, but made news in California. And I don't know if you followed the gubernatorial debates between Jerry Brown and Meg Whitman, but they mentioned Utah a number of times in the debate, saying we cannot continue to lose jobs from California to Utah. Now, I thought that was a pretty good soundbite, by the way. But it's indicative of the fact that they recognize in California that we're doing something right and they're doing something wrong. And so we see this growth that's taking place, and I think that's just great news for us. Last but not least, as we see the job growth creation, the magical thing that happens is additional revenue now comes into government coffers. Our corporate income tax is now up. Our sales tax, you saw in the paper just a couple of days ago, is up. And that bodes well for us to pay for our government services. How do you pay for government services? You grow the economy. You don't just raise taxes. That's the wrong thing to do. In fact, would be a dampening effect on a fragile growing economy. But we're going to have some additional revenue and some growth money that we'll hopefully be able to utilize and help in this challenging upcoming budget session. And the end result, again, not only more money, but a recognition by people outside our borders that Utah is really becoming the example of what good government should be, and where good communities and society and people get together. And again, we were just recognized by a national publication as the state that has the best quality of life in all of America. It says a lot about what we're doing here. America's a great place to live, but the best of the best is right here in good old Utah. So again, I pay tribute to those who've gone before. We've had great leadership that's put us in this position. You don't just do it by Friday. In the last couple of weeks, change your ways. This has been an ongoing, planned effort by many people. But I'm here to tell you it's reflective of not the elected officials. It's reflective of you, the people. We have great people in this state, and we, the elected officials, are reflective of you, the people. And so if there's any accolades or any patting on the back, it should be the people of Utah, who are such an example of how communities should be, how they conduct themselves as good neighbors, helping each other in the appropriate roles that each of us play. And I'm here to tell you that I'm proud to be the governor of this great state, and look forward to making sure that as we continue working together in unprecedented partnerships in unprecedented ways, that we always will make sure that we remain as a great place to live, a great place to raise families, and a great place to do business. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Governor Herbert. We appreciate your leadership and your vision in such a personal and warm way. I especially found that wonderful to think of this all in the context of the law of the harvest at this time of year, and what we can all take away from that message. Thank you so much. Well, you all have a printed program at your tables. We are now delighted to be able to hear from three gentlemen who I think in their field stack up against anyone in the country. Three Utah Valley folks who will talk to us about UVU's business engagement strategy. First, we'll hear from Fraser Bullock, who together with Greg Butterfield has co-chaired the university's strategy group. And then from President Matt Holland himself, who every time he takes the microphone continues to motivate and inspire us. We look forward to his words, and I think President Holland will introduce us to the little group discussion that is also there at your tables. And then from Dr. Stephen Covey, who will talk to us about the business elements as well. We all know Dr. Covey as a leader in business strategy and look forward to his remarks as well. So first, Fraser Bullock.
Thank you, John. I'm here representing Greg Butterfield, myself. Greg and I had the opportunity to serve on the board of Omniture together. He's an absolutely brilliant businessman, a good friend, and a good person. And I had the opportunity to work with him on this business engagement strategy. Just a comment first on Governor Herbert. It was very interesting when I was one of the co-chairs of the optimization of state government. And I remember being in a room, there were just 3 or 4 of us with Governor Herbert and a few others, and we were talking about some of the recommendations. And one of the people in the room said, well, Governor, this could be dangerous politically. It could hurt you if we come out with this recommendation. And he said, I don't care. I want to do the right thing. And that has resonated with me in everything we did, and that was a almost year-long effort. He wants to do the right thing. Very focused on the business community, helping build an ecosystem for us to prosper in our businesses, and it takes brilliant entrepreneurs like you, a very friendly and supportive government, and then we add into that mix the opportunity of higher education. And when I was invited by President Holland to participate in this, I wondered how it would turn out. And the process involved inviting about 30 business leaders from the community, representing various sectors of the economy, to come together on 3 different occasions. We had to do homework in between to determine how the business community and in turn the students of UVU could benefit through what I'd call an integration strategy or a business engagement strategy. And through this process, we were able to give our opinions as business leaders, direct the discussion, and we went from a whole host of ideas to 5 or 6 key areas. And what I found particularly encouraging is how thoughtful, engaging, in fact brilliant President Holland was through this whole process, trying to understand what would work best. And so I see it kind of as a dual benefit to Utah. Number one, to the business community and being supportive and actually having this institution here support businesses and how they can help us prosper and grow through educating these wonderful students in such a way that they'll be able to fit right into our businesses, go into the proper sectors. And then second of all, for these students, of which I have one of my children here, providing them the direction, insight, and vision to be able to engage in the business community and to more seamlessly integrate while they're students and then into their careers. So I was delighted with the process, very grateful for the help from Greg, and very impressed at the outreaching effort by President Holland. So at this point, I'll turn it over to President Holland. Thank you.
Thank you, Fraser. I appreciate that. I appreciate your efforts along with Greg to co-chair our process together. Very grateful to the Chamber for hosting this, organizing this for us. So to Steve and John, I appreciate that. Governor, it's always a treat to have you on our campus, and we do celebrate in your victory, and that's a great step forward for us. She couldn't be here today. I think it's also worth noting that Utah County's own Becky Lockhart is the new Speaker of the House. I think that deserves a round of applause. So. And we're very grateful to have Stephen Covey here with us today. Let me just give a little foreshadowing of what he'll be talking about. The main thrust of what we're here today is to talk about UVU's business engagement strategy. But as you can see, we're committed to community engagement writ large. And so we don't only want to be highly engaged with the business community, we want to be a convener, a useful institution for a range of community issues. After I'm done speaking, Stephen will come up and share some of his latest insights about the ways that universities can play this role. And as usual, he's writing on this in a brilliant way, and it's already attracting national attention. And he's going to share some thoughts with us about how we might do this. But as part of that, when he's done speaking, we'll probably take that right up to the end of the traditional hour that we're together. We're hoping as many of you as possible can stay for some small group discussions around the two questions that are on your table. So on your table you should have this handout that asks about what is a major concern, issue, or problem that needs to be addressed within the valley. So we want to think about valley issues. We're probably not going to solve the national debt problem here in Utah Valley. But there are some things that we could do, and so I'd like you to be thinking about that during our remarks. If you can't stay at the end, at least fill this out and leave it on the table behind you, and if you can stay for the discussion, we would very much appreciate that. So that's how we'll proceed at this point. Well, if we can call up the presentation now. As I've said, we are committed to engagement here at Utah Valley University. We want to be connected to the community. We want to bring you onto our campus and benefit from your insights and expertise. We want to also be a resource to you. And that's what this is all about. It just makes all the sense in the world for business and higher education to coordinate with each other, to help each other. I think this is best illustrated by what's now become a kind of standard process here at UVU, a story about the Holland kids. So it's Halloween weekend, and I'm out with my two younger kids. The two older kids are at that stage where it's no longer cool to be seen with your dad out at Halloween. So I'm with my 5- and 8-year-old, and we're on a doorstep, and the woman hands out a full-size candy bar. Now this is, of course, the holy grail of the Halloween experience, to get the full-size candy bar. And so she's still on the threshold as my son and daughter turn away and are in utter glee. My son's halfway down the stairs and yells out about as loud as a 5-year-old could yell to his sister, "I told you she was rich." When you folks prosper, it's good for us. And when we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, it's good for you. We want to be your workforce provider. We want to be your engines of intellectual property. We want to work hand in glove with you so that we'll do well and that you'll do well. And that's what this moment is about right here. And that's what this process has been for the last year. And I hope you'll see by the end of this address that we are putting our money where our mouth is, and that there is a holistic commitment of this university, starting with my office, that we will be this community-engaged institution, and that we have, I think, a particular insight and capability to help with the business community. I'd like to introduce to you now a few of our, we have a raft of new leaders who are helping do this. This obviously is the job of a whole university. Let's start with Dr. Ian Wilson. He recently was made the interim vice president of academic affairs, replacing Liz Hitch, who went up to the commissioner's office. After a few months in office, it became crystal clear to me that if I was going to be a smart, wise executive, I would take the interim status off his title. And so this happened just a couple of weeks ago. Ian is now the official Vice President of Academic Affairs. He comes from the business world. He was former dean of the business school. You can see some of his areas of expertise. He's sat on local boards, and this is now our Chief Academic Officer, who's supremely attuned to the needs, the issues, the ideas of the business community. I think that is significant in and of itself. We have done some reorganization of some responsibilities here on campus. Val Hale has a new portfolio with his vice presidency for university relations. He has a specific mandate to go out and forge community partnerships, not just with business, again across the board, but especially with business, and that he will go out to help foster internship programs, research projects. We have an engaged learning grant process, $400,000 a year for where we can get a student, a faculty member, and a community figure working together on some project that will make a meaningful difference in this community. So Val will be coming around to your businesses. Let him know, how can we help you? How do we work together? Mark Archambault is our new Vice President for Development and Alumni Relations. Mark comes with an extensive background, not only in these fields, but with a special expertise in corporate and foundation relations. He knows how to work with the business community. He'll be helping me think through university development issues as it relates to the economic needs of the area, and will be forging, I think, very collaborative partnerships with you all in ways that will help move the university resources forward, but also speak to your passions and your interests and what you'd like to see done here at the university. We have an entirely new position at the campus. This is Dr. Brian Birch, and he is the Associate Vice President of Engaged Learning. It came to me fairly early on, if we were going to be serious about engaged learning, this couldn't just be an appendage of the President's office. It would need to be integrated into the academic backbone of the university. Brian Birch comes with a great deal of respect across campus, from the humanities and social sciences to the arts, as someone who can move between different disciplines and help all of the disciplines figure out how they get committed to this idea of engaged learning, focus on ways to apply the classroom learning out into the world around us. So he'll be working closely with Val Hale. As Val Hale brings partnerships to the university, Brian will be the academic who really helps translate this into programs and policies and training for both our faculty and our students. Finally, Dr. Norman Wright is the new dean of our business school. Norm comes to us with a storied academic pedigree, MBA, PhD from Wharton School of Business. He's got international academic business leadership from the Pacific Rim to the Middle East, most recently coming from a dean of a business school in Saudi Arabia. I wish we had time to let Norm speak to you. Maybe you can have him back another time, but he gives a very articulate and well thought out vision for the Woodbury School of Business, that it will become the business school in the state for Utah businesses. We say that recognizing there are some other great business schools in the state, but they increasingly have broader national, international missions and focus. Our focus at Utah Valley University under Norm's leadership will be to help you, will be to be the business school responsive to the needs of the state in general and this valley in particular. Well, before we even get into an engagement strategy, I think it's worth noting the kind of economic impact this institution has on the valley. To echo back to my inaugural address, we are, I believe, economically indispensable to this region. Consider just a few facts. We are the 5th largest employer in the valley. For every tax dollar that's invested in this institution, we generate another $6.22 back into the economy. That makes a difference of $1 million a day, $31 million a month on average, and $373 million by the end of the year. That's what we're doing just by being here and teaching math and English and history and philosophy before we even start to think about the activities that we might do to help further our impact on the region. Think about our Woodbury School of Business. We launched our MBA program this fall. We were going to start with a modest program of 39 or 40 students. We had to bump that up to, I think, about 45 because the applicants coming in were so well qualified we couldn't turn them away. It's off to a terrific start. We have nearly 4,000 students were enrolled in our Woodbury School of Business last year. That makes us, this is I think a too well kept secret, the largest business school in the state of Utah. There are other things that we probably need to talk more about in the community. One is our relationship with the Utah Manufacturing Extension Program. We host the only extension program in the state, and the Department of Commerce did a study recently that showed that thousands of jobs have been created or saved through this partnership. That's an additional 659 of manufacturing industry output. That translates into nearly $15 million in new taxes and $122 million in wages. You should be looking for our new profile. We've been hosting this manufacturing extension partnership for 15 years, but I don't think people know about it. You'll see coming forward new logos, new visibility for this UVU manufacturing partnership. It makes a huge difference in this state, and the state needs to know about that. We also have, by any standard, the #1 small business development center in the region. You can see that we house the Small Business Development Center on campus. We got the ultimate compliment from the Chamber, who started to look about what might they do to help small business development. They looked and did a broad study and said, whatever we do, it couldn't be as good as what UVU is doing. Let's support that. Let's get behind that. That's the decision we've made, and we appreciate that and want to build off of that. But we're, in this last year, helped create 72 new businesses, assisted or supported over 200 other businesses. This is creating a couple of hundred new jobs, saving jobs, and increasing sales to the tune of $6 million. We have a vibrant relationship with USTAR, the Utah Science and Technology and Research operation that initially got its start out of the University of Utah. We have Steve Roy, he's here with us this morning. He meets with our leaders regularly, and in the last year we've received 9 technology commercialization grants to help move things forward here in Utah Valley from that very successful initiative. Well, these are just the things we are already doing, and so now I'd like to talk about what we plan to do moving forward based on this tremendous input that we got as a result of our business engagement strategy sessions. Just to reiterate quickly some of the things that Fraser Bullock said, we convened a group first, as he said, of 30 business leaders that met for 3 sessions. We then vetted it with a larger group, totaling about 50 people altogether from industry primarily, but also education and civic leaders. Again, thanks to Fraser and Greg for co-chairing it. Craig Bott from Grow Ventures Utah did a fabulous job facilitating this, so much so that we're continuing to use Greg on some other projects. And our approach, I think you heard it, was to first listen. What I did not want to do is for the university to show up and start to tell you what we could do for you or what we would do for you. Our first and highest priority was to sit in a room with you and listen. What do you need? How do we respond to help you with your businesses, to create the right infrastructure, to properly train the workforce? So that was the first goal. The second goal was to inform. Even though we were listening, we can't just do whatever you tell us. We are an academic institution. We do have certain parameters and standards that we have to hold to. And so there was this very good give and take, that as the ideas would come in and then we'd respond to say, well, we can do that, we can't do that, and then finally that we would get to something concrete. I did not want this to just be an exercise of talk or another, report that was issued, but that it would actually lead to stuff that we would do. And I'm proud to say that we can report today that's exactly what's happened, and we're already at work on the various issues that were recommended. I'll not go into the details with each of these. There were 7 recommendations. I'll give you the general heading. within each heading there were anywhere from 3 to 6 or 7 specific things that could be done. We took all that under advisement, refined it according to where we were and what we thought we could do, and focused it on what I think is a manageable set of objectives, and this is what's come forward. Number one strategy was that UVU should get involved with technology commercialization. So we've refined that to developing an office of technology commercialization to help facilitate the screening and selection and development of transfer technologies developed at UVU and around the region. This will not just be for UVU. There's lots of intellectual creativity and energy going on in this industry around this valley, and we want to be a resource to the whole valley on that. We have a position posted as we speak for a director of this office for technology commercialization. Some of you in this room may actually be in application for that. I will say it's a large and competitive pool. I know we're going to get an extraordinary hire out of this. This position will be open, posted through Tuesday, November 9th, and then we will start interviewing after that. In addition to posting for this position and developing this office, we've continued to work with leaders from Provo and Orem, Utah County, and the Chamber to consider additional ways that we might enhance the infrastructure or processes of technology commercialization in the area. Again, we want to try to be a convening, leading influence with that here in the Valley. Strategy number 2, entrepreneurship initiatives. The first thing that I will talk about is, I think, extremely exciting, is the development of a full business resource center. You can see that we have the floor plans and the programming worked out for that. There will be in this space 12 incubators, and these will not be little sort of cubicle-style incubators. These are fully secured, dedicated spaces, about 250 square feet, where you could put in a reception area and a couple of small offices that can be configured as needs be. They will be separate spaces, wired with the latest technology, and private and secure. They will also have some shared space for training and conferencing. And again, we'll give some high priority to intellectual property and ideas germinating out of UVU, but that's not going to fill this building. This will be open to the community. And so to the extent that you or your associates know of businesses or have businesses that need help in the startup phase, we will be there. It will be a one-stop shop for the physical, social, even mentor resources that companies need to get started. It'll be co-located with a bunch of acronyms that I won't take time to explain. Some of you will recognize most of them: CEDO, our SBDC, PTAC, the Wayne Brown Institute, UMEP. But the key thing is that it will be populated with lots of folks who have lots of knowledge about getting businesses started that will be there as a free resource to these individuals. I think what's exciting about this is also its location. You can see it's a little grainy, but it's the building circled on the bottom of the page there, and that's the old Saturn building. So it's just across the street from here, sits right on I-15. We'll have great frontage, kind of marquee space there, so very easily accessible for traffic coming and going. We are also under serious consideration right now is the development of an Institute for Entrepreneurship. This is moving its way through the budgetary process of the university this year, so we're not in a position to say if we've decided that or exactly what's happening, but it's moving along, I think, with great energy, and I'm hopeful that we'll move in this direction. This would be the educational arm for fostering entrepreneurship in the area, so a place that would sponsor conferences and workshops, develop classes that could be offered, some for credit, some not for credit, in entrepreneurship or related areas, do demographic research that could be useful for young entrepreneurs in the area, offer a business plan competition and a speakers bureau. Just, again, foster the energy, the creativity, the support needed, but with that educational focus for our students and for the community that wants to take advantage of that. I loved this next strategy that came forward, which was that the business leaders said, we want you to be educationally rigorous. Since I've come here, I've spoken about UVU as being a serious institution of higher learning. We are that serious institution, but we're going to become even more serious in the years ahead. What was also interesting is that the business advisor said, we don't want that just for you. We want public ed's got to get more rigorous, and we think you should try to help with that. That resonates deeply with us. We're already at work on it, but having that input from the business community gives it even more energy. Let me just report a few things about the rising educational excellence at UVU. We've hired 44 new tenure-track faculty in the last year. I don't know many institutions in the country that have done that, that could do that, especially in the middle of this economic downturn. But because of our growth and tuition, and because it was my #1 commitment to help shore up the academic backbone of this university, we've made it a priority, and we've done it. And it will populate this campus with some of the latest and greatest, best-trained young faculty from this country coming to this institution. If you look at what's happened to our students in the last 2 years, this is based on our entering freshman class, those students with an ACT score of 24 and above, 2 years ago, 20%. 2 years later, today, nearly 30%. That's a 10% jump in just 2 years. To move an institution like this even a single point is significant, and we've gone a full 10%. I also, we have worked hard and even harder based on the input from the business community to develop I think what is the leading K through 16 collaboration in the state. I'm told that we are the envy of the state with respect to that, and it's a personal priority of mine. I attend these meetings and meet with the superintendents of the 7 districts in our region. We meet every couple of months. And again, we've tried to pick some modest but meaningful goals. 2 goals. Number 1, reduce the number of students who need remedial math. And that's got to take a partnership between public ed and higher ed. We got permission to do a pilot in the state that has gotten enough excitement that other districts are now asking if they can copy it. I think we'll make substantial progress there. The second goal, that we would increase the level of communication between the counselors on our campus and the high school counselors. To do this, we have hosted at our expense a high school counselors development day where we bring them in, let them take advantage of the resources on our campus, the experts in different fields, to help them do a better job in their advising process, and in the process of doing that, know us better, know what our expectations are, know what the students will have to do in high school to be university ready, and help them get prepared for that. We're also developing a number of summer bridge programs that will help students move from high school to university with a smoother transition, feeling better prepared for what they're doing. Strategy number 4 is the business. There was a recommendation that the process of developing this business engagement strategy not stop, and that we continue it in some fashion. Well, we've done exactly that. For the last few months, it's been informal. We've continued to meet with individual members of the business engagement strategy group and other members of the business community as we've been pursuing these various initiatives. Now that we've gotten some of our internal positions in place, the array of new leaders that I showed at the beginning of the presentation, we're in a position to now formalize what I hope will be and plan to be an ongoing formal business advisory group. That's under consideration and in organization right now. We'll be announcing those details a little bit later. Strategy number 5 is leadership for cluster acceleration. There's, again, the sense that we could be a convening power and bring together industry, civic leaders, educational leaders to help figure out what we need to do to amp up a particular industry or a business cluster. We've done that. We've applied secured a grant from the Utah System of Higher Education, the Governor's Office for Economic Development, the Division of Workforce Services, and USTAR for a grant, and we've picked the industry of digital media. We think this is an area of particular and growing expertise, but it's still small, and there's a lot that we can do to amplify this industry in the area. So we're bringing people together. Craig Bott's facilitating this. We have representatives from all the major area institutions, the U of U, ourselves, SLIC, and BYU, coming together with senior executives from the digital media industry and also civic leaders to see what are the things that we could do to really add some energy to this particular field. We expect a final report on that, much like this one, where it's specific and concrete and driven as much by industry input as it is by what we have to offer in way of collaboration. Career pathways. There was a sense that the university needs to pay real attention to helping students develop earlier on and in a better way a sense for where they're headed with their career and to tie their educational preparation around that. And so there are three major things that we can announce that we're at work at here. We've had launched a pilot program on what we call electric student education occupation plans. These are things that are developed in high school that heretofore have been on paper and kept in files and never kind of made it out of the public ed system to higher ed. We've run a pilot program to do this electronically so that the file can move from high school to university so that our advisors can look at that file so the minute the student steps on this campus, they can in a proactive way say, it looks to me like you're interested in this. You might consider these 5 things on campus that could help facilitate that. Let's start to talk about that. They'll keep that file up to date and can regularly refer to it. We've got a new degree program that we call Wolverine Tracks that we fully implemented this fall, and UVU as students can set up a program to how they move towards graduation, and that with the eye towards getting 60% of our students to have a graduation plan in that first year that will move them more expeditiously through graduation. Finally, we have an Institute for Professional Engagement. This is something that our friend, trustee, and now Regent Dan Campbell has helped us get started. We're revitalizing this program. It's a way to get students connected at each year of their time here at UVU with a different level of professional preparation, engagement, exploration about what's out there and what they would like to do. Finally, there was a sense that so much of the future of business is going to be connected with China. If you look at what's happening to it economically, militarily, politically, culturally, we have to be able to do business with China, and to do that we need an institution, a university institution, that is preparing students to do just that kind of thing. There are a lot of things that we're considering doing here. Let me just highlight a few things that we're already doing. This wasn't on our radar screen at all, but based on this input and decision, we've hired 2 new faculty members. These are well-trained folks, PhDs from places like Harvard and Columbia, who are coming here, not just with experts in Chinese language, but an appreciation for the history, the culture, who can give a broad-based help to our students to understand how to do business and how to operate with that country. A Chinese minor is already in development. We're looking at a long-range plan to develop a full degree in Chinese studies. We've launched a global spotlight on China for the year. We have a terrific display at our Woodbury Museum of Art of some classic Chinese art. And for this group in particular, I think you'll be interested to know, we'll be hosting a Doing Business in China conference on January 11th. We'll have more details about that coming forward, but I think you'll be impressed to see the kinds of speakers that we will be providing for that, the kind of practical seminars that we will offer for any in this community who see themselves as doing or wanting to do business with this country that's emerging with such importance. Well, there's more that we could say. I think those hit the highlights. I want to end on this note. I am profoundly grateful for the efforts of our co-chairs, our facilitator, the business community, the folks at UVU, the hardworking deans and vice presidents. We've got faculty members who are here today that care about this. They're working so hard right now. There's so much being asked of this institution. With our growth in concert with the challenges we've had with the budget given the economy, this institution is running flat out. We can't move forward without your support, but we've gotten where we have with your support. I'm utterly confident and enthusiastic about the future. I'm grateful for the intellectual energy, the emotional support, the cheering that we feel from this community. I look forward to going forward with this community, entering in a new era of collaboration between the university and the business community for great economic development and enhancing this institution so that it can become everything it has the potential to become. Thank you very much.
I'm supposed to tell 3 stories that in 8 minutes. The first story deals with my training of all of the Indian leaders in North America, that is Canada, the United States, and Mexico. And after 2 days of training, they gave to me a beautifully carved talking stick about this high. They put my name on the backside. They called me Bald Eagle. And, but if you carry that stick on a plane, they think it's a terrorist instrument, so we reduced it to this size. And we also have one for a person's home or for their office. The idea of Indian talking stick communication is to do exactly what President Holland just talked about, and that is listen. Listen until you can restate the other person's point and their feelings about that point in the context in which that point has relevance to the other person until they feel understood. The Iroquois Federation taught this to the founding fathers of our country, which I think powerfully influenced what took place in Philadelphia in the creation of the synergistic Constitution, which is the oldest written constitution in the world and the model for 95% of all other constitutions. So the idea is that you just give it to the other person until they feel understood. Until he feels understood, he won't give it back. The second story. I belong to what's called the World Leadership Forum, made up of Christians, Jews, and Arabs of the Islamic faith, to build a better relationship between the United States and the world Arab community, which has deteriorated over the last few years. And they'd all studied the 7 habits, so on Sunday night they allowed me to teach Indian talking stick communication. And I taught it, and they applied it for 2 days. Not one person spoke without having the Indian talking stick, which meant they were understood first before they seek to understand. And in fact, Madeleine Albright said to me, she was Secretary of State with President Clinton, she said, I have never seen anything so transformative as this. This would completely change international diplomacy, because all we do now is figure out who has the power and what compromise can we work toward. And I noticed yesterday it was civility, compromise, conflict in the newspapers about the election results, and but not about synergy, where the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's what happens when people understand each other in depth. Defensive energy goes down and creative energy goes up. So you always begin with the statement, would you be willing to search for a solution that is better than what either one of us propose? Not a compromise solution, but a better one. And both parties know it. Not my way, your way, it's our way. Plus, they get committed to it. The group was transformed, literally, in 2 days. The level of profound respect, even love, that they had for each other. And this is 75 people coming on their own dollar around the world to convene together to develop a better relationship between the United States and the world Arab community. And we came up with 4 strategic goals. And all of us are accountable in accomplishing a particular 1 or 2 of those goals. Even to this day, we are accountable. And this relationship continues on. Third story is a book I'm writing called The Third Alternative. And it's the introduction to 10 other books, one of which is well illustrated by UVU, because it could be the center case of this book, how a university or a college can trim tab, that's the small rudder that turns the big rudder that turns the entire ship, can trim tab a community by convening this kind of leadership that we've just been hearing about and coming up with very practical, concrete ideas and suggestions and recommendations on how to make a community get focused around a transcendent purpose and a value system based on integrity and based on universal, timeless, and self-evident principles. And that, so we are going to have to, we've studied several other colleges and communities around the country, but my intrigue is UVU and what they're doing here, because they're so committed to community service and to engaged learning. And so that may be the main thrust of that entire book. Another book is called The End of Crime, showing how through positive ticketing, giving more positive tickets than negative tickets, crime goes down 85 to 90%. When mores are sufficient, laws are unnecessary. When mores are insufficient, laws are unenforceable. That's a statement by Emile Durkheim, the great sociologist. When mores, norms, standards, socially accepted standards and norms are sufficient, laws are unnecessary. When mores are insufficient, laws are unenforceable. So this is an effort that will take us into many years of work. One of the other topics is live life in crescendo, meaning the most important work you'll ever do is always ahead of you, never behind you. That you should live life in crescendo, so that the purpose of life is not accumulation but contribution, and making a truly significant difference, not just in your community and in your church and in your family, but also to the state, to the country, and to the world. Anyway, these are the 3 ideas that I had to share with you, and I appreciate so much UVU for its tremendous commitment to engaged learning and to community service. And I thank everyone for the privilege of presenting these stories and this idea to you. And I'll give these talking sticks, one to the governor and the other one to Matt Holland, so they can use them in their work.
Well, what a stimulating and exciting morning we've had. This is a great way to start a Friday. We are so appreciative to Stephen and Fraser and to President Holland for introducing us or giving us more information for those of us who have been involved to this point about UVU's strategy. As a business community, we are so grateful for the initiative that this university is taking and for the opportunities it opens up to all of us. We've got to want it, so we've got to all continue to participate, and we look forward to that process together. And Governor Herbert, thank you so much for being with us and sharing your thoughts and vision with us as well. Now, while you're all in the mood and you're thinking about these things, we really hope that as many of you as possible can remain for just about 10 or 15 more minutes at your tables and chat and discuss some more about these concepts. President Holland talked about the sheet that's there that offers some questions for you to respond to. I'm sure he's interested in any other responses as well that are relevant to the topics we've discussed today. Just a couple of quick housekeeping pieces. You'll notice there are a few flyers at your table with a couple of announcements about a food drive that we're hoping the business community will get behind, and also the Watkins Awards for Orem City, which will take place on November 11th. We hope as many of you as possible will join us for that. Thank you very much to all of you. Thank you again to UVU for sponsoring us here today. We'll look forward to seeing you all again on December 3rd at our next Friday forum in Provo. Again, stay with us for just a few more minutes if you can. Thank you.